sacred art.
Welcome to the Echo Podcast, where every story has a source, every calling has a cost, and every transformation leaves an echo. I'm here today with Brad Lange. Welcome, Brad. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
So, Brad, take me into your world. Tell me about your family, what your day-to-day looks like. Who are you, Brad?
Who am I? That's a broad question. I've been married for 21 years. I'm glad I got that right, by the way. Except I did a little math in my head,
key,
and I
actually.
made sure that I hit it right on the nose. It'll be 22 later on this year. I got 2 kids, a 15 and a 17-year-old boy. I'm a small business owner, and I'm a family man.
What is the climax of all your favorite family activities to do together?
Well, right now, my kids are very involved in sports.
Okay.
So we are that family. We are carpooling every day of the week.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to track meets and tennis matches, and my 15-year-old doesn't drive, so we 2-3 times a day we're going back and forth somewhere. So we're very busy with the kids right now as they get a little bit older and more independent, but they still rely on us quite a bit.
Yeah, I know that world. It could be very tough.
Yeah, you do.
I know that world.
Yeah, we're speaking the same language right now.
Yeah, do you ever want to just set up like an office in your car because you're just driving back and forth to so many different events? I've thought of this before, but maybe that's not where you're at.
Yeah, I mean, there are times where, and my wife and I talk about it all the time. We're like, we gotta appreciate these moments because my kids are a little bit older than yours, and so, he's 15. The youngest is 15, so this will be the last year that we drive him to everything. But
Good for you. That's a big accomplishment.
he's a teenager,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack in that sentence. He's a teenager.
that's all I'm gonna say.
All right, let's move on then.
Yeah.
So you have your own business, or you're
Yeah, we got a
self-employed?
couple of businesses, and so we're very busy. I mean, life is as hectic and as chaotic as it's ever been. So yeah, we just try to take it one day at a time and stay in the present.
Yes, which is not always easy to do. I mean, you're in the thick of it still, really, in life. But what line of work are you primarily in?
Yeah, so I own a insurance agency and a real estate business. So we have a lot of clients that need us.
Yeah.
So we're always we feel needed. It keeps us busy, and it gives us purpose. So we're always we're always on the go. So my wife and I run the businesses together. So
Wow, that's great.
yeah, she's right in the mix with me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. And that's always been the case?
No, just recently, my
Okay.
wife kind of joined the fold, and just a little bit of an adjustment period.
Yeah,
Kinda
yeah, there's
closely
always
with
that.
the wife, but we've actually come along quite nicely over the last year, and we spend more time together than we ever have, and it's going well.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy.
Good to hear. I've never worked with my wife personally, but I think you get into a phase of life as your kids start getting older, you have to turn your orbit, so to speak, back to your wife, because me and my wife are just having this discussion. Like, our kids, it's very much focused on them. I have 5, there's a lot, and it's just all their needs. And sometimes in marriage, you have this situation where you forget that the family unit started with you and your wife. Like, that's the family, right? Now you have kids in the mix and you start to lose touch. I mean, that's pretty cool that you're working with her. I feel like that's keeping a bond tight in a way.
Yeah, I mean, the other day she just out loud, she said, we do everything together. Not in a bad way.
Yeah, yeah.
Just like sort of like said it out loud, like we're doing, we work from home, so we do literally everything together. We're doing the laundry. Together. It's like whoever has a free hand,
Yeah.
we're taking care of business. So, but yeah, I can't complain.
We're in the Greenville, South Carolina area now, obviously.
Yeah.
But you were not born here, Right. You were born
I was born in Florida,
Florida.
Tampa, Florida.
Okay.
Born and raised.
So now take us back a little bit to that point. So you're born and raised in Florida. What was the faith environment like in your home growing up? Like, did you have that, or was it something?
Yeah. So we were was raised Lutheran,
Okay.
and
You look like a Lutheran. I'm sorry to offend. Has anyone ever told you that?
no.
You scream Lutheran.
What do
It's not a bad
what
thing.
do Lutherans look like? Nobody's ever told me
I
that.
just had to throw you off a little bit
I'm
there, but
very-
you do. I mean, I
I'm
don't.
very eager and interested to find out
Do you want to
what
discuss this?
what falls into the criteria, because my uncle was once the bishop of the Lutheran Church.
I knew it.
In New York.
Well, so what does a Lutheran look like? If you were born and raised on Long Island, you. I don't know how else to say it.
Look like a Lutheran.
So listen, you're not Italian, right?
Yeah.
And so you're not Roman Catholic.
Yeah.
So you're like the other weirdos growing up, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you're not Catholic, what are you? And then people would say, I'm a Lutheran. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
you have blue eyes or something. I don't know. But keep going.
Yeah,
so bishop.
Yeah, so but he's not. I'm not related to him. He's my biological aunt's husband.
Okay.
So, but to be honest with you, it was very regimented. You had to go to church. You had to be up at a certain time every Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And let's just be completely honest about this answer. So, me in the Lutheran Church as a child, if you would have saw me, you would have maybe said, "Is that kid in catatonic shock?"
Okay.
Yeah, like he looks frozen in time. Does somebody need to check his pulse? Like, what's going on with that kid? Like, he doesn't look right. Is he asleep? Is he alive? I wasn't into the atmosphere.
Okay. You were uncomfortable.
No, I wasn't uncomfortable. I was bored.
Okay.
I was bored. Yeah. I was bored. Just wasn't into it. I didn't listen. I was borderline, if somebody would have put their hand in front of my face to make sure that I was alive, I mean, that was me in the pew. So I was not, but I will tell you this, I had a very strong relationship with God as a kid. I had a relationship. I prayed a lot, and I thought, God's got my back. If I get into a real bind.
So you knew that.
Oh, I knew God was real from a very young age. I couldn't tell you when. It was a long time ago. But I knew from a very early age that God was in my corner if I really needed him. And I had a lot of selfish prayers, as we do when we're kids.
Right, of course.
When we're praying, we're praying about numero uno. Yeah, so but the church itself, wasn't great for me as a kid.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I grew up Roman Catholic, as I mentioned. And I found that if you were Lutheran or Roman Catholic, I mean, there were other Protestants and other flavors around. I just didn't really know them growing up. Similar type of experience that I think everyone had in a sense. And there were some outliers. But for me personally, I was in the same boat. I kind of just shut off emotionally because I just didn't know what was going on. And the ironic thing about it is, recently, as an adult, I found some letters that I wrote Jesus. They were like on Christmas, actually. So I wrote Jesus a happy birthday letter. I opened it up and I read it, and I'm like, I had a pretty vibrant faith. And the way you said it, that God's got my back, it was more than believing in God for me. Like, I think it was a given that there was a God. But it wasn't a given that there was a God who loved me and that saw everything that was going on in my life. But for some reason I had that as well, like that not that he's there, but that he has my back. But at the same time, my experience of worship and faith growing up was very disconnected from what happened in private, which may or may not be an issue, but it's just really cool to hear that you had that. I think that took me pretty far as a kid. If I didn't have that, I probably would have gone further away than I did growing up as a teenager. But I like this discussion of our perception of the world as a child, because we had discussions in the past about film as well. So you had faith in your life as a kid, and you had film. And I also was very, very much drawn to movies. What was the pull for you with film?
When I was a kid, I snuck away somehow. We had, we had one cable channel, and it was Showtime. Showtime.
Showtime.
Showtime showed some stuff that, I probably shouldn't have been watching.
Yeah.
And a couple of the movies that really stood out to me were Platoon.
Okay.
Have you seen Platoon?
No.
Oliver Stone, 1986 Best Picture. You
I haven't seen it.
What about Aliens?
Yes.
Okay, Aliens. So those are the two movies that that really were impactful for me as a child, where I would just sort of get lost in the stories. And I didn't know it at the time, but as I grew up, I learned that these two directors, Oliver Stone and James Cameron, were two of the legends. They created these worlds that felt so very real to me as a child. I was kind of mesmerized, but captured by what I was witnessing as a child. And like I said, I don't think my mom would have approved.
Right. Yeah, there's always that. Did she know?
I don't know.
Did she know what you were watching?
I don't know because, I was the youngest, and I would just, it only Showtime came on the one TV. So it was in the living room. So I don't remember if I was watching it in the day and the night or any time it came on.
Yeah.
But, those movies came on all the time, and I was hooked. I was like, what? This is unbelievable that they've created these worlds that, like I said, just seem so very real to me. But yeah, Oliver Stone, and I found out later on in life that Oliver Stone, the director, was this was loosely based on, he's a Vietnam veteran, so it was loosely based on his life. And so here am I, this impressionable young kid, and seeing things and hearing things for the very first time that I've never heard before, just these wild circumstances, and the artistic, what I was watching on screen just blew me away.
Two things that I noticed are, as a kid as well, seeing movies, were the world building. So when you enter into a really good story and there's a whole universe and a world built around it, you find yourself in that world, obviously. And that was really impactful to me. And then there's the characters. So you mentioned Charlie Sheen. Not a movie, but for me, it was Jim Carrey.
Oh yeah, I loved it.
Ace Ventura. I watched Jim Carrey's performance, and I'm like, it was funny. And as a kid, I didn't realize it was like art to me.
Yeah.
But I almost put myself into him. And the thing that I look back on, I'm like, I was looking for something more than just entertainment when I was watching movies. Yeah. I was looking for an escape. And I think that's really what happens to a lot of people. You want an escape, but there's the break. Like, I just want to take a break from life right now. I got a lot on my mind. And then there's the escape category, which is like, I want to enter into this person and into this world for a few. Yeah. That blew my mind. And it caused some problems for me. Like personally, like some identity issues that I had to work through most of my adult life. Yeah. And it wasn't just Jim Carrey, it was movies in general. Yeah. But I found myself sucked into those stories. And it was the characters. You know what I mean? But for you, was it the visuals more, or was it the character, like the Charlie Sheen in Platoon?
So all of it, that raw emotion. Like I remember, like let's switch to Aliens.
Yeah.
I don't want to give you too many movies here, but Aliens, the score in that movie, when Sigourney Weaver gets pretty amped up in that movie, and she's walking through those tunnels and she's pissed. And I remember the score, and I'm thinking, this is the most thrilling form of art I could have ever imagined watching. And you get lost in it. It's just all encompassing, all consuming. And the thriller, that was the first time I was introduced to a thriller. Okay. And that stuck with me. I was like, you can't get bored in this movie. Yeah. Like this movie, you're seeing things that you have never seen before. And so you're learning also. You're learning about the relationships. You're learning about human interaction and human behavior. And so you're watching something you've never seen. You're excited. You're scared. You're learning. I mean, it's like plethora of emotions you're experiencing all at the same time. So I was like, man, this is wild. Like, this is wild. Like, it had its fangs in me.
Yeah.
Right away.
That's a good way to put
Those
it.
two movies, yeah. And I just showed my kids Aliens a couple of years ago for the first time, and they loved it. And they're a tough crowd.
Okay.
That's especially the older movies. You're like, Dad,
Yeah.
Dad, come on. Like, when was this movie made? This is gonna suck.
Do your kids go by years? My son is old enough now to be like, nothing before 2020.
That's exactly.
That's a high bar.
Oh,
Not much was made after
So
2020.
my son says anything before 2000.
Before 2000. All right. So you have a bigger selection.
But Aliens got him.
Aliens got him.
It got him with it, both of them, and they were like, "Yeah, you were right about that one." And they give me a hard time all the time about movies I suggest and recommend, but that one got them both.
Yeah,
They're
no,
like, you were right. I don't get the you were rights very often.
yeah. Well, there are classics. I mean, obviously there are classics, different things that you can expose them to see. But when you said it got its fangs in you, that's something that you can't really control. It's this intersection, in my opinion, of your brain being what it is, uniquely made by God, thinking in movies. I mean, I find myself thinking in movies where, like, for you to notice the score of something at a young age, that's a little bit of your wiring involved. Yeah.
Still hear it.
It's a haunting experience. So it gets its fangs in you, and it shapes you. Funny enough, as well, for me, that was always playing in the background of my life. That film also had its fangs in me, and I didn't know what to make of it, what to do with it, but I just loved it, and it was always a passion of mine, even as an adult.
It was like an electricity.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like.
Yes.
Yeah, for me. Yeah.
The medium has a way of communicating ideas and thoughts that no other medium can, and I just wanted to harp on that for a second because we'll talk one more film quickly. You ever see Interstellar? I might have mentioned this in one of our last conversations.
My all-time faves.
Interstellar.
Can't make this stuff up. It was one of my all-time faves.
Is it really?
It really is. I absolutely adore that movie. I've probably seen it 50 times.
You've seen it 50 times? All right.
It never gets old.
I've seen it less than 50 times,
Never
but
gets
it's still
old.
one of my favorites.
Never gets old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let me ask you what your favorite scene is.
Right when you said that, the one that sticks out is because of the score. Though I don't know if it's because of the score of the scene, but when he's holding his mother's hand when she's dying in bed, when she's 95 years old.
Yeah.
And she says, what does she say? She says, because my dad promised me, and he's holding her hand.
This is what, Murph, or no?
Murph is in bed, but she's like 90 years old.
Because of the time dilation.
He finally comes back,
Okay.
and she believes that her dad said that he was going to come back, and so he's holding her hand right before she dies, and that's when the score starts, and the movie that's the beginning of the end of the movie,
right,
as that score
like that last sequence.
He goes to Brant's planet, after that, he steals the plane or the spaceship, and he goes and he's headed off to Brant.
Yes.
And Anne Hathaway's character. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry,
no,
I took that over.
No, take it over, man, because you watched it 50 times, and I'm like, he's definitely sharper on Interstellar than me. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's my favorite movie.
Yeah, what's your favorite scene?
When you said the score, I used to, and maybe this is me giving you a glimpse into my weird brain, I would listen to the main, it's not called just the main riff. What's the word I'm looking for? The main theme, the whole, like, the notes where it's like dun dun, dun, whatever that's called. I would listen to that alone in my car and just get the chills.
For sure.
And just think about that movie.
I actually have it on my playlist.
Yeah, I had it just like nonstop playing at one point on my phone. It's a beautiful score. It's one of the best scores I think I've ever heard in my life.
Right, my kids make fun of me like, Dad, why are you listening to stuff with no words?
Yeah.
I'm like, because it's awesome.
Because it's amazing, but you can see stuff going on in your head when you're listening to it.
Yeah.
My favorite scene was the Tesseract, when he's stuck in the Tesseract and he's floating through, like, it looks like all these ribbons, and then he starts to understand what's going on, and he lands in this place where he sees Murph in her bedroom. Yep. And he's about to leave, and she's like
screaming.
Yeah, and he's like, no, and he's hitting the thing, and he starts to see how all this stuff's coming together. Yeah. And then what was the guy's name? Lars? What the robot? Lars?
I think Lars.
It was Lars. Okay.
There.
So he hears him, I think, in his ear. That scene taught me so much And it shaped my understanding of how God interacts with us. Even it brought this weird level of understanding, and how Jesus steps into time and saves us. It like blew my mind. But the emotional pull of that scene, that's a scene that I don't cry a lot during movies. I really don't. I'm not just pretending because I'm being videotaped right now. On the record, I really don't. I will fully admit I like wept during that scene because it was the music. It was everything.
Yeah. I'm always on the lookout for a new score that it keeps you, I don't know, it gives me a peace, scores.
Interesting.
They just give me a peace.
Why do you think that?
Because of my love for movies.
Yeah.
Anytime I find a song or a score that I like, I hear it for the first time while watching a film. I mean, that's where I get all my information.
Well, now's a good time to address the elephant in the room.
The elephant in the room.
The elephant in the room, Brad. Do you know what the elephant in the room is, or do you not? I'm going to tell you.
I think so. But
Go ahead. You do?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I hope you do. I think you do.
Go ahead.
I'll frame it this way. How in the world does a financial advisor write a script for the Solomon Saga?
Yeah. We talked about this a little bit several weeks ago, but that the story of Solomon, when I read the Bible, it just stuck out. It just stood out like a sore thumb. I just there was just something about that story that hit me differently. When you watch a movie that you love, it hits you differently.
Yeah.
Like it stays with you for a couple of days or a week, and that's when something really got its eggs in you. And so the Solomon, it never really went away. Like what hit me when I read it, it just never really went away. So I was trying to visualize, like, this would look great on screen. Like this kingdom. I'm trying to picture it right now. Like this would be beautiful to see this kingdom on screen and to tell this story for so many different reasons. I mean, what the complexity of it, and there's so many different reasons why this would be cool to look at. But that's all it was. It was like that's a great idea.
So that was your first encounter.
A great idea.
Yeah. You just want people to see this world the way kind of cinema got its fangs into you as a kid. You want people to experience this world visually, and then the character obviously being Solomon, which is quite a phenomenal character to discuss. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
But the first impact to you, right? You're a financial advisor, right? You're going about your daily life. At some point in some other vein of your life, you're reading through the Bible, you're reading the story of Solomon, and your first take was like, people have to see this. Is that what it was? Or was it that it just kept lingering with you and then you were wrestling with that?
Yeah, I mean, I got to a point where I was like, what? This guy, is God telling me that he wants me to do something about this? And I'm like, well, let's just get really honest about this. And the honesty about it is, it felt like a joke. Is somebody watching me right now? Like, why can I not stop thinking about this?
Okay.
Like there's a stirring, a restlessness going on here. And it was like, man, I can't release this for some reason. And so, yeah, I mean, I was trying to talk myself out of it. I was trying to push it down. You're trying to push it down.
Right. Okay.
This is funny, right? I mean, okay, let's just be honest about the story of Solomon. Is there a bigger story besides Jesus Christ than Solomon's story? Like if you look throughout history, it's arguably one of the biggest stories ever told.
Absolutely is.
And the ramifications and the consequences and the repercussions of Solomon's sins and what it did to the Middle East. And so there's all these things, he's revered by all the three major religions. So there's a lot going on here, and I'm like, this. So picture me, and I don't think I said this out loud, but this is what I'm thinking. I'm like, God, so you want me to, write something about this? You want me to write a screenplay? Because I'm a movie guy, as we So my first thought was feature film. This would look great in a feature film at the theater. Like, who doesn't want to see that trailer? And so, I'm thinking about it. I'm like, is there anything else you want to talk about? Because that's outrageous. That's that's irrational. That's outrageous because I'm not a writer. So, so you want me to write this and then you want me to parachute into an unknown world and sell it? Is there anything else you want to talk about?
That's crazy.
Yeah. That's kind of how it went. It was just, yeah, it was like, this is silly. Yeah.
I had to just kind of like sit and think with that for a second and just let that marinate. I love, one of the reasons why I wanted to sit down with you, to be completely honest, when people tell me crazy stuff, like what you just said, it blows my mind, and I'm like, I want to know everything about that, because I hear, so you've never written anything before?
No.
You've never written anything in your entire life? Like, okay, nothing. But why did you feel, was there a reason why you felt like you had to write it? Because you could have been like, I'll get a writer. You know?
I mean, immediately I was like, this is like, the gaps in the story. I've talked about this before. So for those who have watched the other podcasts that I've done, or, the live stream for the Solomon Saga, the gaps, there's gaps here. There's so much information that is just unavailable about what happened here. So immediately I was like, boy, somebody could make this very entertaining. Like what an like when we're talking about movies, you want to have fun. You want to be entertained. You want to be on a ride. So this had all of the components of an incredibly entertaining, let's go on a ride here. This would be beautiful to watch. So there's so many things about it that I was attracted to. I mean, I could probably talk about it all day. I mean, I'm probably forgetting all kinds of details.
Well, I wanted to zero in.
Yeah.
I wanted to relive through you, to be really quite honest, what happened.
Okay. So I'm trying to explain it as accurately as I can. So I know you're not a sports guy.
Not really.
But I'm going to give you like a baseball analogy.
Okay.
Okay.
I think I could do baseball.
God's the pitcher.
Uh-huh.
I'm the batter. I'm up to plate, ready to hit. And God throws me a perfect strike.
Okay.
And I just watch the pitch go by me. It's a strike, perfect pitch, perfectly thrown. And that's when I'm like, I'm not going to swing at that.
Yeah. Wait, was it the first pitch? I don't want to complicate the analogy. Yeah. Okay. Because usually we don't swing at the first pitch. It was kind of clear. It's the only thing I know about baseball.
It was kind of clear as day. It was a perfectly thrown pitch right down the middle. I'm not swinging at that pitch. No. I'm like, why aren't you swinging at it? Because it was like 103 miles per hour, and had spin on it, and it looked like it was so hard to hit. It's like you're trying to swing at a bullet.
Yeah.
I'm not swinging at that pitch. But what I learned over time is he kept throwing the same pitch over and over and over and over. I'm like, okay, he keeps throwing the same pitch over and over. And I think I'm going to have to maybe try to do something about this.
But I want to try to take this analogy even further. So he keeps throwing the same pitch, right? Over and over.
And you're trying to push it down.
You're trying to push it down.
Look the other way.
Are you waiting to hear strike 3 so you could walk off? I mean, I would imagine.
Well, finally you're like, okay, well, you're going to have to, I think I'm an extreme case here. I'm stubborn. And so, I'm not familiar with this world that you're trying to get me to swing at.
Right.
So you're going to have to be crystal clear. You're going to have to smack me across the face.
Yeah.
You're going to have to hit me really hard to let me know exactly what you're trying to get me to do here, because I don't know how to take the first step. I don't know how to write the first word. So, and then I read something that helped me. And we're going to go back to the movies here for a second, because my favorite movie of all time is Braveheart.
Okay.
And so Braveheart just spoke to me. It's kind of like Solomon. That story just kind of spoke to me. That's the best way for me to describe the effect Solomon had on me. It was the first time, not the first time, but the Solomon story just spoke to me when I read it. It was just odd. It was just eerie almost. But Braveheart in 2020, that's when I wrote the original story. We do some funny things during COVID.
Yeah.
That was 2020. And I read an article about the actor. Have you seen Braveheart?
It used to be my favorite movie until I saw There Will Be Blood, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. So Braveheart, I read this article in 2020 that the actor that played Robert the Bruce
Yep.
in Braveheart, I don't know what his name is now, but apparently he was sort of, it was very passionate about the story and the role that he played. And he shortly after they filmed Braveheart, he wrote a sequel.
Okay.
He wrote a script, a sequel to Braveheart. Nobody knows that, by the way.
I was going to say, I definitely didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
So right within a couple of years of filming of Braveheart, he was like, I want this story to continue. So he's in the industry. He's a good actor, by the way.
He is.
He's great.
He's great. I've seen him in other movies.
Yeah. He's great in everything that he does. And so he writes the script, and then nobody wants anything to do with it. Nobody wants to bite on his story for the sequel. So when I read this Hollywood guy that's already intertwined in the industry, and he waited 25 years for somebody to pick up his story, I was like, why am I intimidated here? Why do I have to continue to be intimidated about this? And so that was the moment that I said, I'm gonna do something about this.
I personally believe that you were appointed by God to tell this story. I honestly do. Ever since we first spoke, I really mean that you were called by God to tell this story. And more than that, it reminds me how crazy the Bible is. So the Bible is wild, how it speaks to and just grabs our hearts. And then you have these weird blueprints that you could look at someone like you in your life now, thousands of years after something happened to Moses or Jonah, and I'll get to that in a second. But I'm like, man, that's eerie, the similarities there. When you look at what your testimony is, the fastball's going down the middle, not swinging, you see the kind of like a model or a blueprint that you see in the Bible over and over again. It's God asks someone to do something, he calls them, and they say no. He asks them again, and they say no. And it could keep going. I mean, Moses, no. Jonah, no. Prophets, you see it over and over and over again. And it's weird because I'm like, if you would have told me your story and you were just like, on the first pitch, you hit it out of the park, yes, God, I'm like, that could be. But there's just so much eerie similarities between the stories of the Bible or Solomon's story that you're trying to tell, and then all these other people you see when they're called. And that's why I'm like, man, this guy's called. But then the story continues, right? So it's God calls you to do it. No, I'm going to ask you again. No, I'm going to ask you again. Then you say yes, right? And then that's when you get thrown into the fire of testing, the fire of trials. Again, back to another eerie similarity. You've never written anything before. And you're like, I love the story, I love Solomon, but at least find someone that's written a screenplay. At least find someone that's written some blogs. Like something that has a journal on his nightstand. And that, again, is so characteristic of all these stories that you see in the Bible. Our objections to God are like, hey, I'm not able to do this because I'm not qualified, right? And then you have the age-old saying, God doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called, which I would never undermine that. It's a platitude. And when you're really in it, like you'll know that you're in that. But it is true. And how he equips you is through the fiery tests and the trials. And I'm just going to leave that there for now. But I did want to say, for what it's worth, I do believe, and I have believed, that you are ordained by God to tell this story. And that should sit with you, hopefully, and encourage you.
Yeah, it makes me very uncomfortable.
Well, tell me about that, because I kind of get it, but
always
how?
Always has, and even to mentioning those, because I've taken comfort in those stories that you mentioned, those biblical stories of these people that were unequipped or ill-equipped to be taking on these tasks that have been presented.
That's part of the cycle.
Yeah.
Being like uncomfortable by that.
Yeah.
That's part of the biblical blueprint of being called by God.
Yeah, so this is a loaded question. Um, yeah, so there's like a paralyzing fear involved in this, and probably getting ahead of myself, but let's go back to the biblical stories. So I heard a pastor say this one time, and it really did speak to me. And he said, what does wisdom look like? What does wisdom act like? What does it look like? It looks like foolishness on earth. Looks like folly. Looks like, what is he doing? I heard the whispers. Do I think people what is he doing? I'm sure. I probably know that for a fact. That, I've told some people about it. Right, what is he doing? What is he really writing about this? So, yeah, you look at some of those figures that you brought up. Let's talk about some of them. And you mentioned Moses, but some of these biblical figures that were picked to do something. I took comfort in. I'm not comparing myself to these people, but you take comfort in how you try to transport yourself into their journeys and to their circumstances. You asked Noah to build a boat in the middle of the desert. I mean, that's not what this is. That's like on a different level. Paul was like a hitman.
Yeah.
He was borderline like a terrorist. This is who you're going to choose to write half the New Testament.
Yeah. Sure, he felt a little uncomfortable by that.
Right. You think about Peter, he's this sort of obnoxious kind of, you're going to build your church with this guy. The list goes Moses, it goes on and on, that you ask Samuel to pick David to be the king. And, there's all of these things. And so and you and I have talked about this in a couple of times that we've spent together, is that the biblical stories felt very alive in my heart when I read them. They just felt alive. It was like a wonderland when I read especially the Old Testament. But something activated inside of me, I guess is the best way to put it. It was like a switch went off, and I tried to push it away. I tried to act like it wasn't there, but it began to burn, began to ache. And then it became this thing where I was like, wow, this is really important to my heart and my soul. So then at that point, I was like, I don't have any other choice. So we gotta give this thing a go.
So your moment stretches out from a decision, but before the decision where you said, I'm going to do this, there's obviously doubts, there's fears, which fear plays a huge part into all of this, obviously. Mm-hmm. But that burning just reminds me of, in the Bible talks about a message burning in people's hearts. Even on the road to Emmaus, they said, did not our hearts burn within us when he was talking to us? Like when God's speaking to you, he's burning something in your heart. But I think that there is just such a deep reverence to a story lived out through someone like you, where the fact that you're uncomfortable by it is a good thing, because I think that shows some level of reverence and humility to the situation. But it's all on this, you're just like everyone else that felt the same exact thing. And God is still speaking through us in this day and age. And a lot of times we forget that. Not that you're a prophet or I'm a prophet or anyone's a prophet, but God will call and he will equip the people to do the things that he needs them to do. And I love hearing what was going on inside your heart, because it's so raw. And that's an important part of this project, in my opinion, because it starts with the mouth of God and it lands in your heart. And the beginning of this project was you wrestling with God. That's how this started, you wrestling with God. That's a profound thought. Or maybe it started with you being intrigued with Solomon, but really when it started was you're wrestling with God, which to me is just really, really cool because of this passage that you hinted at. That was that, the wisdom of this age is foolishness. And the cross of Christ is foolishness to those who are perishing. It's this whole paradigm of what was really wisdom in God's mind, the world pretty much laughed at and thought was the stupidest idea. You look at people who criticize our own personal faith. I've talked to people. It's like you believe that some guy 2,000 years ago died on the cross, and that's like, that's something special to you.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, you're like, it's foolishness to the world,
Yeah.
but it's the most profound wisdom in God's mind. I mean, not to get into like this amazing subject that deeply, but I'm blown away recently in my own devotional time. Like I've thought about this. Because I have kids, right? And I think about this stuff with my kids all the time. How could I show my daughter Ella or Leah or Tyler or Ava or Lucas, the list goes on. How can I show them the most profound love as a father? And I'm like, I can't get to that level. And I think about God. It's like, how could you show as the creator that you love this world, this earth, and these people, and Brad in particular? How could you show him that? There's no greater love than laying down your life for your friend. And that's what Jesus did for us. He showed us this most profound way that you could love someone. And at the end of the day, it involved him laying down his life and being nailed to a tree. It's crazy. It's foolishness. But that's what our faith rests on. And Paul says too, like, and if the resurrection didn't happen, then we're pretty much screwed. I'm not quoting Paul in that translation. That's the Charlie translation. But all that being said, you hit on a really profound point. Your life is a testimony of the gospel in some weird, odd way. And I think God's always doing that. Like, let's take something that someone could laugh at, and they've made fun of you, maybe, as you said, or people have just little whispers like, what's Brad up to these days? Writing a script? Go back to the S&P. It's, you know what I mean? And you had to wrestle with that.
Yeah.
That's part of this film.
Yeah.
Like, that's profound in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I wasted a lot of time wrestling. That's when I said I think I was a severe case.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, did you waste a lot of time wrestling?
Or probably not. I
Yeah.
mean, because everything, God's never early, he's never late. What's the saying? He's always right on time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, probably not. But he probably knew ahead of time it's going to take some time with this guy.
Yeah.
We got a special one down
That's
there.
the difference between
We got a special one.
our perspective and God. God allotted like 3 times the amount of time already for you.
For real.
And you're like, this is taking longer than we think. God's like, I already know.
Yeah.
I had to do like 3x on you.
Guy needs all the help he can get down here.
But that's part of your testimony and your process. And you're a different man.
Yeah.
I mean, like, the wrestling with God is where the magic happens, right? You come out of that wrestling match different, like your hips broken, like metaphorically speaking, like in our wrestling matches with God, like something crazy happens, which is wild.
Yeah, I mean, I was like a shot of electricity when I decided to actually do something about it. It was, it was intoxicating. Just okay.
Yeah.
I have some ideas here, and then you come up with another idea, and then another idea, and you're like, okay, well, maybe I could formulate some kind of a story and a blend of fiction and nonfiction. And I knew how it was going to start. I knew how it was going to end before I started writing it, and then I had to fill in, the 40,000 words in between.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's go back to the timeline of, we've seen it all. Love film as a kid. You had this faith. Yeah. You totally read that you were a Lutheran to me, which I'm glad to hear you say that. But you get to this point where you say yes to God, and that surge of electricity, and it's like, now you're on, like, we're on the path. Yeah. Let's go. And you have this amazing energy, because I could relate to that. When you say yes to God, you get that energy. But now you're writing, right, and you're by yourself still. So just high level, how did you get from being on your laptop in your bedroom, for example, right, to having a team around you?
So, 2 different ways to answer this. One, again, going back to another sermon. I heard a preacher say one time, like, if you think God's testing you, if you think that there's something going on, like you feel like you're walking with God for the first time. That's how it felt. I was walking with God. I was saying that out loud, and I was like, what am I talking about? Like, I'm walking with God. It felt like I was walking with God. We were in this sort of like creative dance together. So when I identified that, I heard a pastor say one time, like, if you want to make the impossible possible, you have to go through like a 7-step process. I don't know if you ever heard this before.
So 7 steps are pretty common.
Okay.
And yeah, but
Yeah, so-
I may or may not have heard it. Yeah.
So yeah, you're listening is number one.
Okay.
And then you're believing what you're hearing. Okay. And then you're speaking out loud what you believe. And then you're actually physically putting one foot in front of the other, and you're starting to live out this thing inside of you that you're trying to do. And then you're praying with people about it. And then you're waiting after the doing is over, or at least a big part of it. So you're waiting. There's another word for waiting. What is it?
Anticipating?
Torture.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so you like, I did all this work and like, yeah, what now? So when you're waiting, you're supposed to be trusting.
Yes.
Supposed to be trusting and sitting calmly.
The hardest step potentially.
Sitting calmly. So that's where I think we are.
Okay.
The Solomon Saga. We're in the waiting period.
You're in the
We've done a
waiting
lot,
period.
and it's really good sometimes to look back at how far we've come. And I know I'm probably getting ahead of myself here, and I'll go back to the second part.
Yeah,
of my answer. I'm going to go back to the second part of my answer. So that sermon really did speak to me. It was like, wow, I can take comfort in that because, I'm not a patient person. I'm just not. It's a flaw. It's a character flaw.
Yeah.
It's a problem. Always has been. So, but going back to how do we, where I'm wrestling with God, I've decided to write this story, and I bought the software. I've written a 30,000 word. I think is what it ended up, a 30,000 word.
When you bought the software, are you saying you went out and you bought Microsoft Word?
No.
Like that's how much you've never written. You didn't even have Microsoft Word on your computer.
No, like an actual, let's
Bought Microsoft Word,
format
floppy
the
disk.
screenplay into something that looks like somewhat identifiable with like a Hollywood script. It was called Writer Duet, and so I paid the fee every month, and I start everything is self-taught, by the way. Yeah. Everything is self-taught.
Makes sense.
But so I write it, and every once in a while I would give it's just me and my wife at the beginning. It's just me and my wife, and she's supportive, and I'm giving her bits and pieces of this, and then one day she says something to me that I'll never forget. She says, "I can't wait to find out what happens next." And I'm like, wow, I can't believe that somebody said that to me. Like, I can't either. That was actually my response. I was like, I can't wait to find out what happens as well. So let's see where this goes. So I finished writing the story, and I'm like, this isn't half bad. So what do we do now? I think my biggest break with the Solomon Saga, I wouldn't say the biggest break, one of the biggest. But in my eyes, I always, and this is when I say you always got to look back to see how far you've come, especially when you're in this waiting period and you're becoming impatient, but you look back and you say, there was this moment. I had no connections and no contacts in the industry. So here I am. I've written this story. It's finished. In my eyes, this draft that I've done is finished. It's got a beginning, it's got a middle, and it's got an end. And I bring it all back around, and I feel like it's a ride. And so what do I do now? I have no idea. So I find this company that's a go-between company. That is a group of Hollywood people that have either been agents or writers or producers, and they have been through the Hollywood experience and trying to make a name for themselves. And so they created this company that allows you they provide contact information for people like me.
Okay.
And so it's like a go-between where they say, hey, listen, we want, if you have a script or a story that you're interested in telling, send us a query letter. Have you heard of that before?
It's basically you're inquiring and you're pitching it to them, right?
Right. Yeah. It's like a 250 word query letter, which it summarizes, it's a synopsis of the story you're trying to tell, and it lists all of your information. I had submitted my story to the WGA. So I have my WGA number on there, and really just a shot in the dark.
Yeah, and this is still you and your wife, completely on your own, shot in the dark. Wild.
Shot in the dark. I mean, I don't know at that point if I had given it to really anybody else. Probably maybe a couple of people. I don't know. That was just 5 years ago. So we're like, yeah, I'll give you the money. I'll give you this a small fee. And they say, we're going to send it out to 500 agents, producers, studios, whatever the case may be. It would just, this query letter will be shot out. And so it got shot out, and a couple weeks go by, nothing, you know. I get a couple of like the automated responses.
Yeah.
From like Steven Spielberg's.
He's on vacation, out of office.
Production company, Amblin. I remember Amblin coming back, and I'm like, that's Spielberg.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
automated company just sent me an email. We've received your query letter.
Okay.
We'll get back to you, but it was just an automated.
Yeah.
Thing. So
that must have given you a little juice, though.
Well, yeah, I was like, that's Spielberg.
Yeah.
I'm excited. So yeah, a couple of people responded. Some questions were asked. Somebody asked me to send them the script. I sent it, nothing. And then this one writer/producer responded and said, I'm interested in your story, and I want to set up a Zoom call. I was like, really? And he said, yeah, I just want to talk to you. I don't even want to talk about the story. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm going to throw up right now. And so he's like, I'm going to bring on a biblical expert, and we're going to do a Zoom call. And that just brought even more pressure to the situation. Like, I mean, this guy's going to grill me on the Bible. Like, he's going to be all over me about. But he said, the reason why I responded, he said in the email, the reason why I responded to your query letter is because you're telling the story in a different way. You want to tell the story in a different way, and that's what sort of attracted me to your query letter. So anyways, fast forward like a week, we get on the Zoom call, and he's like, I just want to talk to you. I don't even want to talk about the story. I couldn't believe that. So we talked for like an hour, and he never asked a question about the script.
Really? So what was the biblical expert there for?
Well, this is 5 years ago. We had a really good conversation. I mean, I was so nervous. But somebody, I felt like the Holy Spirit must have sent like some kind of a comfort over me, because I was just, I just was talkative, and I did most of the talking, honestly.
That's great.
And so
when he does that, yeah,
he didn't want to talk about the script. He just wanted to talk about me, and we talked about film, talked about a little bit about them, and the call ended, the Zoom call ended, and then like 24 hours later, he asked for another one, and then he was like, "Okay, I want to read the script." He goes, "But I'm about to go away for 2 months. I'm working on another project." And he's like, so, better hurry up and wait, because I got to leave. But he's like, I'm interested. And so he's like, why don't you send me the script? And he was like, I'll get back to you in 2 months. And I'm like, this guy probably never.
Yeah. It's a really convenient
like 2 months,
approach.
But I promise you, 2 months to the day, he emailed me. He goes, I just read your script. He goes, I want to talk again. And so he gets on the phone. He's like, this needs a lot of work. He was right.
Yeah.
I mean, he was right. I mean, I don't know, but he's like, the foundation is what I was attracted to. He's like, the foundation of the story is what you got some stuff here, but it needs a lot of work, and I want to partner up. I mean, I'm leaving some stuff out here, but I want to partner up and go through a rewrite, and so the rest was history. So that was my first connection to the industry.
Wow. Okay.
The shot in the dark query letter.
And you hadn't heard back from anyone else?
I mean, I heard a couple of things.
Yeah, but you didn't pursue it really.
No, I sent the script.
Okay.
And then I wouldn't hear anything. And I'm like, that's a bummer, And then I even had a friend that was in the industry. It was a client of mine, actually, that was in the industry. And she agreed to read the script at one point, and then like months later, she was like, I'm too busy, I can't do it. And I was like, dagger.
Well,
dagger.
you're putting yourself in such a vulnerable situation. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm trying to imagine
Yeah.
you're all insecure about, like,
Yeah.
you're sharing your heart.
Yeah.
You've never written anything in your life, and you're just telling people to go ahead and pick this apart. That's crazy.
Terrifying. Yeah. I mean, and I'm probably getting ahead of myself again, but the vulnerability about the whole thing is really hard to put into words, because it makes you want to throw up a little bit, honestly, putting yourself out there like that. So, I mean, there's an excitement. There's a real, like, that shot of electricity going on here. Like, and that's where I talk about the aching and the burning, and the electricity is like, there was something going on. It became more important than I didn't see that coming. I didn't see how important it was becoming inside of me. And that caused a lot of problems for me.
Right.
That caused a lot of problems, like borderline health issues.
Wow.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you're kind of juggling all those different emotions at once, and yeah, you're like, well, here we go. We're gonna go to the next phase. So that was the start of the next phase, a rewrite.
Okay.
This is a feature film script.
Yep.
Let's turn it into a rewrite with an experienced writer. And so that took months.
So that had to be a long process.
It was.
But what do you think? So this guy that read the script, the reason why he reached out to you the first time was he said that you
I almost forgot something. I almost forgot the best part.
What's the best part?
So this is what he told me. This is why I thought that the most important part, the biggest progressive moment, and it's hard for me to believe that, even it coming out of my mouth. This was the moment that catapulted the story, is because he told me something that I will never forget. It has stayed with me since the beginning. He said, I respond to 1 out of 10,000 query letters.
Wow.
He says, I have 10,000 query letters in my inbox. I responded to yours. And I was like, whoa. And I think that's what caused the pressure. And then, like, okay, maybe I'm not insane. Maybe I'm not an insane person here. Maybe there is something to this that is way bigger than me. When he said that, it definitely resonated with me in a way that excited me, but also created, like, a lot of pressure.
Well, that's a pure analogy of the pendulum that swings back and forth when you're called to do something, right? Because you hear this response, 1 in 10,000, right? And you're thinking, man, the pressure's on. But if you just flip the script a little bit, no pun intended, it's like, well, maybe that's a God thing. And maybe that 1 in 10,000 is because God had directed this man's heart, right? But it's so hard when you're in the thick of it, because you, as humans, we just feel the pressure. We feel the pressure. We think, man, now I better deliver, or now this better, I'm on now. But it's really a God thing. But what do you think he saw that was different about the way you were telling Solomon's story? Like, what was the thing, that light bulb that went off in his head?
Yeah, one of the things that I put in the query letter, and my wife and I went back and forth, and she was actually a pretty important piece of putting the query letter, but she was like, you got to be able to speak to people where they are. You can't confuse them. You can't get too wordy with your query letter. You got to, like, make this so everybody can read it, so everybody understands what you're saying. Like, just, and so she would tell me, you got to get rid of that line, you got to get rid of that word. And so I don't know, I never asked him exactly what about the query letter made him do a double take, but there was something. I said, Solomon has a secret. He's a secret that he's holding. And so is there a secret that Solomon is holding to himself that, I'm trying to remember. I wish I could read you the query letter right now, but is there a secret that he's holding that is sort of like an explanation for why he is operating the way that he is as king? It's something to that effect. I mean, I wish I could, I can see it, but I can't remember exactly what I said in the query letter. But yeah, there's a secret that he's holding close to himself, and will he reveal that secret? And so maybe that was it. Maybe there was a secret.
Well, I wouldn't know. Yeah. But let me tell you, though, seriously, my intuition says that we need to talk about Solomon's secret. And what do I mean by that?
Yeah.
So let's pivot a little bit into Solomon's life. And what you're getting at is the secret is if you're willing to not look away from the car wreck of Solomon's life, so to speak, because in some ways it's a train wreck in the debacle that happens and the debauchery that transpires. But I think if you're willing to see and acknowledge all of that stuff and you're willing to look at him for real, not the Sunday school version, that might have been, that's my guess. That's like my hunch. He saw you shying away from Sunday school Solomon and going into the, maybe we could call him the Breaking Bad Solomon, right? And I think he might have felt that. That might have been the thing that just took his attention and said, wow, yeah, there's something there. So let's talk about that. How would you describe Solomon? Not the Sunday school version, Solomon's secret, like the thing, the life, the man.
So yeah, I can answer this question in multiple ways. The first one is I can't tell you what the secret is. It could be a plot line.
Yeah. I mean,
So I can't tell you what I thought his secret was.
my understanding of Solomon's secret.
This is how I envisioned Solomon, and this is what sort of like gave me a buzz about the story. Like when I read it, I'm like, I think Solomon hypnotized people when he spoke to them. I think he had the ability to disarm people, with his wit. He's got this unmatched wisdom that to that point it was unprecedented. So I believe he had the ability to connect with people in a way that nobody else could. So he's the thing that really sticks out about him though is that of all of his success, he never had to lift his sword. When does that happen?
Yeah.
In the Middle East. We can talk about the Middle.
Pretty profound.
We can talk about the Middle East for a second. When's the last time there was peace in the Middle East? When the Kingdom of Israel was a recognized state or nation. When's the last time? I'm not like trying to say I'm some historical expert here, but it seems like that was a rare concept. So Solomon had the ability to speak to people in a way. So I'm like, what was he saying to people? I always pegged him as the diplomatic master. So, he's meeting with all these adversaries and he's wheeling and dealing and he's getting the better of everyone. So he's hypnotizing people when he's talking to them. I don't know what he's saying. He's speaking in tongues or just making people just pass out, but he's doing things that nobody's ever seen before. So man, this guy is clever. This is as interesting of a story as I've ever read. That's what I thought when I read it. I was like, I've never read anything more interesting than this because it could go into so many different ways. The complexity of the story, the darkness, the entertainment, the success, the larger than life storylines, the depth of it, the scale of it, like it just keeps going. My director once said the runway. The Solomon story has a runway that just keeps going and going and going. You could take it into so many different directions. You pick. So there it was.
Wow. So Solomon's secret, as I call it, meaning something totally different maybe than what was originally planned. But what about Solomon's pain? At me personally, when I interact with that story, I think on these big like metaphysical terms and even trying to get into his mind. There is pain involved in his story. There's this narrative arc where, I sometimes don't want to think of like it's the rise and fall of Solomon or the rise and fall and re-rise and fall. But I always say, how did this man worship idols? How did he fall so far away? Like, does the story that involves pain in Solomon's life grab you too? Or was that like number 3 or 4 on the list? Because that's for me has always been number 1. I don't know why.
Yeah, I think that, and I think that Solomon had you can see the changes with Solomon's writing over time. He's this incredibly prolific author of the Bible. His writing is wild. But over time, you notice he's got sort of a divided heart based on his writing. He's got a compromised heart. So there's something going on with him. There's something going on where he starts relying on his own understanding. We've talked about that before.
Yeah.
His own understanding. And he gets, so was there pain? Yeah, that's part of the plot line. I can't reveal because I don't know if it's going to be used or not. But I do believe he had a divided heart. And we've talked about this too, but I don't think that we can judge him. We talked about that too.
Yes.
I don't think we can judge him because we don't really know what was going on exactly with him. So I think, it might have been all part of God's master plan, but I think he may have tormented his heart at a certain point. So that's a loaded statement.
It is.
That's a loaded statement, and it could be for so many different reasons. But Solomon, he became disobedient almost immediately. As all the good that he did in his life, he became disobedient almost immediately and became very self-seeking, very self-centered, very self-absorbed. And we see all of these different examples of him doing things that go completely against. And God warns him. He warns them over and over again. If you do this, then this is going to happen. I want you to keep these laws. And if you don't, this is probably going to happen. It's like he was very clear. The text is very clear. God is very clear about what he expects from Solomon. And Solomon's like, I'm going to take an opposite turn here. I'm going to do what I want to do.
Is there some sort of messianic thread that you see in the story of Solomon?
Yeah. So for me, it's like, who does Solomon remind you of? Jesus.
Okay.
For me, it's Jesus.
Yeah.
So I kind of, I was, even before Kings, I think at the same, simultaneously, I was just as attracted to the Proverbs and Ecclesiastes. I was like, man, these books are just like a manual on how you should live, like a guide on how you should live your life. And I think for a lot of people, even for people that are, I don't want to say scholars or people that have read the Bible like you and I, if you put like a proverb up next to a quote from Jesus and you didn't say who said this, it would be maybe a slightly difficult for you to decipher, was that Jesus who said that or Solomon? Because the book of Proverbs is like, it's wisdom. I don't think it's almost, besides Jesus, it's almost unmatched wisdom. And so, yeah, I think that's what pulled me into the story as well. Like I said, there's so much complexity and so many different things that attracted to me of Solomon's story, but his writing and how it reminded me of Jesus. And so, and then we find out later that, he comes from the line of Joseph.
Yes.
He comes from that line. So it's like a pathway that goes all the way to Jesus. And so, yeah, I picture Solomon speaking in riddles and parables. I do. I feel like there's a connection there that maybe I'm the only one that sees it. I'm not really sure. But man, I felt the connection.
Yeah. I love that
in my heart.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that because as preparation for our conversation, I've been reading through Proverbs and Ecclesiastes. I just picked those two. And the one thing, because I love to see the messianic, I don't want to say messianic seeds, but in a lot of stories in the Bible, you have these covert announcements, these covert messages that something's wrong or that there's a savior coming. And sometimes it's just a flat out prophecy in the Old Testament. But when reading Proverbs, I see some weird connection as well between Solomon and Jesus, because he talks about wisdom and he personifies wisdom. And he says, basically, find this wisdom, seek it with your whole heart, sit in front of its door, and find it like a lover. Find this wisdom is the true lover of your soul, your better half. Like that's what he's saying. Wisdom is your better half, and you need to find it. And until then, you won't be complete. And it struck me deep when I was reading that. And then when you read John's gospel, you see the word became flesh, and it's like the wisdom, the logos, became flesh. I see that same thread and same parallel between them two, which is wild.
Yeah, it is wild. And my business partner, one of the EPs in the Solomon Saga, told me he took a deep dive into some of the mysticism of Solomon's story, some of the, I don't know, legends that kind of sprung after his death, and like, what exactly, there's so much. But apparently, and I didn't know this until about 6 months ago, the Book of Wisdom. Have you heard of the Book of Wisdom?
Yes.
Okay.
Not in the Protestant Bibles, but yes,
it
it's
was
there.
written about 100 years before Jesus was born.
Yep.
And it's like a spirit living inside of people. That's what that's the theory. Is that wisdom is just like the Holy Spirit. It's a spirit that can bestow upon people and live in their hearts. So I found that book to be an extension of Proverbs.
Yeah.
It had a lot of the same concepts, and I found it to be fascinating because it was like reading Proverbs Volume 2 for me.
Yes.
Like,
the first time I read the Book of Wisdom, there may be another name for it. What's in the Catholic Bible? But yes, there's an extended canon in the Catholic Bible and in the Orthodox tradition. There's little differences and nuances. First time I read that book, though, I thought the same thing. I'm like, where you been, man? Book of Wisdom. I'm like, I could have used you in my Bible at that time ago.
Yeah.
But that's a little bit loaded theological thing, which for me it's not personally. But I love that book, and I think it ties that parallel between Solomon as his figure and Jesus, right? The Sermon on the Mount, Jesus speaking in parables. It was so clear, but not. It was just, it's really, really cool. The one other messianic thread that I felt during my preparation of our conversation and reading through Solomon's writings is this weird sense of him sharing the gospel in a way that is not clear necessarily to the reader. Maybe more so clear in Ecclesiastes. So I don't know if you felt this, but he's the guy that's like, I had all the women, I had all the cars, I had it all, and he's saying, there's nothing that will satisfy you more than, I think at the end of Ecclesiastes, he says, like, love God, obey his commandments, and that's the sum total of this meaningless life. And he's the guy that's like, I'm trying to do this so that you don't have to. Like, you talk about who could have amassed the most wealth, women, possessions, wisdom, all of the stuff, right? He did. And he's the one looking back at you at the other side saying, not worth it. Not worth it. That's another messianic thread that I kind of gathered. Maybe it's a bigger stretch, but have you felt that?
Yeah, what I noticed about his writings is that over time it changed. Like he's Songs of Solomon. He's like the ambitious, lively young king that's like just doing things that's unorthodox and unlike anything anybody's ever seen. And then you get to the Proverbs, and it's the peak of his wisdom, and he is speaking just truth. It was like you being truth bombed.
Yeah.
You're wide awake to the truth when you read those Proverbs. And then by the time he gets to Ecclesiastes, that's when I think that maybe his heart was compromised a little bit, because there is wisdom in Ecclesiastes, no doubt. I completely agree. But you see something a little bit off.
Right.
Something has shifted inside of his head.
You feel it when you read it.
Yeah, you're like, wait, this is a little bit of a downer. All of a sudden, like, this doesn't sound like him. And so, yeah, I think that over time he became disillusioned to a certain extent, and he was, relying on his own understanding, and something was shifting and changing inside of him. And all we can do is speculate on what that may have been. So,
yeah, at one point, this may or may not be theologically safe to say, but at one point, because I always struggled with Solomon and thinking about like what was going on in his life and his heart, that he would be met by God so personally, and that he would have this really, really good arc and have all of this stuff, and then at the end of it, throw it all away, or I don't know how else to say it. So I used to try to trick myself, and I would say, well, he wrote Song of Solomon last, and his arc was the opposite, right? He wrote Ecclesiastes first. He didn't really know that much, and then Proverbs was in the middle. That's when he was in his wisest, and then his climax was Song of Solomon as like his love relationship with God, with Jesus. Yeah. And that you kind of wish that it was like that. You really do, but it's just not the case. And it's hard to speculate, which is why I wanted to ask you what you think your role is. Like, you're Brad, someone with the Holy Spirit dwelling inside of him. How do you determine creatively when you're writing this story what's appropriate to fill in the gaps or not? Because that's got to be a really hard
So
thing.
I think the thing that I was attracted to more than anything is not what you're going to expect. It was the thing that stuck out to me more than all of the other things that we've discussed about the makeup of Solomon and his story and the prophecies and he's a poet, all this stuff that just wisdom and the wives and everything. But the thing that really just blew me away about the story when I read it, and there's so little information, but it's the queens. It's like the unprecedented environment that they were living in, where and it goes back to what I said before about his master of diplomacy, where he's able to convince these neighboring adversaries, kingdoms, to give their daughter's hand over to Solomon in marriage. So they're arriving into this kingdom, which is basically the center of the world at the time. That's what a lot of people don't realize, that Jewish kingdom was like, that was the wealthiest kingdom in the world at the time. It had all this influence and prestige. And so you have these queens arriving. Some of them are princesses, some of them aren't. They're all foreign. They're arriving into this glorious kingdom with this wealth and allure, and they all have different cultures and customs and beliefs and faith. And it's like when worlds collide. When worlds collide, you have these local queens. What were they thinking? Like, you have these foreign queens arriving. This goes against the Torah. He's doing everything opposite of how he was taught. And so what are they thinking? Like, what is going through their minds when they arrive in the kingdom? Like, so at that time, we're hearing about prophecies. We're hearing about dream states. Solomon's in a dream state when he's hearing from his God. David is having these prophecies about the Messiah. Before him, it was Samuel. Now it's Nathan. Were the queens having these divine visions, these dream state experiences? I was kind of fascinated with what else was going on in the story with the female side of the cast.
Wow. Yeah.
Of the cast of the script, like the impact that this was having on them. Like, they're watching this happen in real time, and I can't imagine the weight that they felt. Those that were protective over the kingdom and Solomon and their savior, and then these foreign queens come in from Egypt, specifically, and they have their customs and their beliefs, and they're loyal to their kingdom and their pharaoh. What happened? I was blown away by that storyline. I was like, let's dive into that.
Yeah.
Let's find out what was going on. Let's figure out, something happened. Something happened that was heavy. There was a gravity.
It's funny that you say that's the exact reaction that I'm feeling from. It's like something happened. What was it? Now, we don't know what it was, but I see you as an artist. And the one thing that has always stuck out to me, and I forgot who said this, but many people have said this, as an artist, what your art really boils down to is your unique perspective on the world, your unique God-given perspective. So I never had thought anything remotely close to asking those questions about the queens and worlds colliding, because that was not my perspective. And I never had that burden to tell Solomon's story. But it's funny that you say that, because your perspective as an artist is going to be drawn out through the way that you tell your story, in only the way that you can. Now you're going to have to take some creative liberties in doing that.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I think some people shy away from that. Does that make you nervous to have to do that?
Well, people had made me nervous about it.
Yeah.
I wasn't nervous about it initially, but I've been, over the course of time and working on this project for years now, people have said, you're gonna really upset people with some of this stuff. Maybe not about the queens specifically, because there's so very little information about what happened with them. So that one, I don't feel pressure to take liberties with the queens, because that's an unexplored wilderness with them. I mean, there's just almost no information about what happened. So But there are other elements of the story where, yes, I mean, I'm taking more of we are taking more, it takes an army here to write the story, to be more cautious about how we're affecting the Catholic Church.
Mm,
Yeah.
no.
Which I heard it can be very critical.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Very
Yes.
good point. And I think
I'm learning that over time, how careful you have to be with the Catholic Church, because you have to have the Catholic Church supporting what you're doing.
Yes. And they do make up a gigantic portion of
That's it.
what we call Christendom on this earth.
Because at first I was like, I don't want anybody telling me what to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just going to do it my way. I don't want people to interrupt this, like you said, this artistry or this creative, wave that we're all riding on. Like, why do we? At first I was like, I'm ignorant. I'm like, I don't want to listen to anyone. Then over time, I'm like, okay, I do need to listen to people.
Well, Solomon warns us that without many advisors,
Right? That's the whole point of wisdom, right?
Yeah.
The more people you listen to, the more wise you get.
Yes.
So I've learned that over time as well in this space, is that the more people you listen to, the more wise you become. And so I'm learning every single day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a
Learning
great
every single day. You got to put it in a perspective. You got to remind yourself. You got to put yourself in your place, and you got to be open. You got to be open to other people's opinions. So yeah, you want to protect the story, but you also want to be open. And so that's why I said it takes an army.
Yeah, and I think what's in your favor, in a sense, is if you had a philosophy or guidelines, because everyone wants to know what are your guardrails, because you're not just taking the biblical text and extracting that as your script. I mean, that would be impossible to do, and obviously, visually speaking, you would have to take all of the creative liberty in the world. But your guardrails are there, right? So you're going to establish that, and you have the conversation with your team. You want the Catholic Church as a whole to support the project, which, I'm sure they will. But when it comes to the Queens, for example, there is, because of the nature of the story, you have that creative liberty there. So I think people should feel at ease knowing that you're saying you're almost given the right to have creative liberty here, in a sense. And then that's going to will shape back the story that you're telling, that you don't have the creative liberties potentially, but the fact that you have guardrails and the fact that you have reverence, I think should put everyone at ease. And knowing that you're the one carrying that weight with your team, of knowing that people are going to be really scrutinizing this.
Yeah, I'm very passionate about that side of the story. I mean, that one spoke to me immediately. Actually, that's how I started, the original story. It's evolved over time, and it's taken a lot of turns, but I would be shocked if the Queens didn't play a huge role in the expanded story that we're telling. I mean, it already has, but it's going to continue to evolve, and yeah, we got some ideas.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now I'm going to draw some parallels between you and Solomon.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure you're going to love.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Solomon's burden, right? He building the temple. Okay. Solomon had this burden. I'm trying to see do you feel that same burden of building this project out? Like, how does that burden feel? Is it a heavy burden? Do you feel camaraderie with Solomon, or is it totally different?
Yeah, so it kind of piggybacks off something I said at the very beginning, is that paralyzing fear. Is I think that God's been putting this on me. He's been trying to show me that, you can be vulnerable, you can put yourself out there, and you don't have to be so afraid. Because that's the hardest part. That's the hardest part, is you're sort of exposing. When I gave the original story to that writer I was telling you about, the 1 out of 10,000, I said, be gentle.
Yeah.
Because this isn't just a story. This is a piece of my soul.
Right.
So, obviously the story, has a long way to go. But yeah, it's that taking the stepping out on faith and taking a risk. That was the biggest hurdle, I think, is that you have to, that burden is the risk, and those whispers that you hear. I got myself into trouble throughout this process. I've the weight of it really got to me at times. You know, and that's part of like a character flaw with me. I'm an impatient person, as I mentioned, but you know, there were times where I became desperate for it to progress faster than it was going. And that's when you have to like take a bird's eye view, because you have to, you got to respect how far we've come, you know, from that, you know, those query letters all up to this point. So yeah, I mean, but I had times where I almost noticed like a spiritual warfare taking place. I never wanted to really acknowledge that, but my wife pointed it out one day. She was like, "Do you know that every time you have progress with the Solomon Saga, we get attacked by something?" That was real, because then when I did the math, and I was like, "Ah, she's right. I didn't want to acknowledge it, or she was right on the money." Like, and you name the way a family can get attacked, or really her and I mean, from family to business to finances to, I mean, you name a way that you can be attacked spiritually. It was coming from every angle, and there was a correlation between the success or the progress of the project and us specifically. And that was a lot. So she said something to me that resonated with me that I'll never forget. She said, like, there was a stress that was reverberating inside of me that I can't quite explain. It was like, yeah, it was always there. I couldn't escape it. I couldn't get away from it. It didn't matter where I went, who I talked to. I couldn't escape the stress of it all. And it was all self-inflicted. It was all me trying to do things on my time.
Right.
Yeah, like we do. It becomes about us. I want this to go when I want it to go, at the speed I want it to go. And so she told me one time, she said, "Yeah, you're under so much stress that you're scaring me." And sometimes, you know, we have this ritual that we do as a husband and wife. Every morning we drink coffee together before we start our day. So we wake up early, and we have 3 dogs, so we got to make them happy so they will leave us alone. So we get them what they need. And then we sit down and have coffee, and we just talk about whatever. You know, it's like a ritual. And there were, we went through a period where I didn't get up right away. I delayed my getting up, because we sleep in 2 different rooms, because she has restless leg and I snore. So we sleep in 2 different rooms.
Yeah.
So she told me one morning, she was like, "By the way, I don't think you're going to come out of the room." Yeah. "I don't think that you're going to make it out of the room, because I've never seen anybody that's that stressed out in my entire life." And I was like, "Whoa, that's not good." So yeah, I got pneumonia last year for 2 months. I think my body just sort of gave out. I just crashed and burned. I was at the Austin Film Festival, and I had to leave early because I got violently ill. Had pneumonia for 2 months. I think my body just all of it caught up with me. And so, yeah.
Well, I got a little bit that's a lot to unfold.
I gave you a lot there.
No,
Yeah.
but that's,
Yeah.
I'll just say this, the spiritual element of things, spiritual warfare, for me, I underplay that, because I was in a church environment, and even personally, where I really undermined that. And it was great for me, because I got really into like spiritual warfare and understanding what goes on in the unseen world. I kind of got obsessed with it. This is maybe like 10 years ago. And I'm like, I don't know if this is really that good for me, because I'm always looking for what's going on behind the scenes. And this was an attack, that was an attack. So I kind of went on the complete other end of it. And now I'm going back somewhere in the middle. And it's funny that I'm saying that now, because I think I got caught up a little bit in the orbit of your spiritual warfare last night with my Chinese food experience. No names mentioned. It was Chinese food.
Yeah.
And Montezuma's revenge.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
No, but really, there's a lot to that spiritual component.
Yeah.
Joking aside, I mean, that's a true story, as you know.
Yeah.
But joking aside, there is something that happens, and I think with the spiritual warfare, the attack happens primarily in a marriage first. Trying to carry, and I've seen this with my own wife. Like, you know, you guys are best friends. You're married, but all of a sudden you blink your eyes, and my worst enemy is here for no apparent reason. So the fact that you can see that, the fact that you know that's going on, is a good thing. And I was told once in the past too that, like, when you're doing something that's going to have some kind of impact, be ready for it. and be ready for it in prayer and fasting and however that looks, but don't be surprised. And that is really, really wild to hear some of that from you, because we don't talk about that a lot, just in general. We don't go through our life and say, hey, Satan threw this flaming arrow at me this morning, but it is true, and you're acknowledging it. And we pray through that, man. It's a real thing.
Yeah, nobody warned me.
Well, without warning, I mean, you went from, you dove in.
Didn't see it coming.
You dove in. So you're diving into spiritual warfare kind of at the same exact time. You're diving into everything.
Yeah, I didn't see it coming. I didn't, there was no, I'm learning as I go here. And I'm just trying to stay upright and positive. And, right now I'm at peace, which is, I go back to that stubborn thing. That's a severe case, extreme case that God has been dealing with all along. He's been working on me just as much as he's been working on the Solomon Saga.
Yeah.
And for the first time in a long time, I'm at peace with the progress, all of it. I just, I'm okay right now.
That's a beautiful
very
thing.
Happy to report that.
That's so I think that would be the most important thing for me to hear, or for your wife, or anyone who loves you and knows you, to know that what you said, God is, and I'll say this categorically speaking, God is more concerned with you and your heart and your soul than this project. But he's doing work in it. He's doing work through everyone on your team. He's doing amazing things. And it's not simply the outcome of the project. I'm involved in a ministry as well that we see this stuff happen all the time.
Yeah.
That's why we're in this, because God's doing something in me and in this other person, and he's putting it all together. And he's like, I love you, Brad. Like, I love you. Mm-hmm. And I would never see you suffer in a way that's not going to do something in you. And it's going to all be part of this grand plan. There's a line from a song that I really love. It's maybe, you ever hear of NF? It's like a Christian, I don't know if he's Christian, but he's in the Christian rap world.
Maybe.
He's popular with the young boys.
Yeah, the young boy. I'm
the
not
young
one of
boys.
those.
He's
one of those.
We're not one of those. But so let's be honest, I'm not either. Yeah. But there's a song, he says, you give me a false sense of peace just to show me what peace really is.
Yeah.
And I love that line.
Yeah.
I take that line with me every day.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, man, God, you really shook things up to get me to kneel before you. And I had tried so many things that did not work, and I put the pressure on myself, and you shook me up. And then when you realize that you went through the fire and you're at his knees and you're just praying, and you're like, when you get that peace, you said, like, I'm happy to report I have peace.
Yeah. That's
because you had to have a false sense of peace first to know what peace really is.
They call that the descending plot line. You have a plot that you think it's going to go this way, and then it descends, and your plan starts to fall apart, and you're like, what's the point of faith if your plan doesn't fall apart? You're going to be tested, right?
Yeah.
You're going to be tested huge.
Yeah.
You're going to be tested huge, and it's going to hurt.
Right.
And and what does that do? What does that, God, it took me a long time. Boy, it took me a long time to get here. Extreme case, man. Because the pain is, what is it doing for you? And what is it doing for everyone else? It's making you more relatable. It's building your character. You're able to connect with people because you experience something that's why you can't look away from the pain, because that's the one thing we all share. It's the one thing that we all have in common. That's why we can't look away. That's why we're attracted to the stories that reveal the pain in the stories, because that's where we're one. That's where we're like this.
Yeah.
And you can take it to a different level. Like, Jesus suffered more than anybody.
Oh.
And what is our point here on earth? It's to become more like him. That's God's plan for us, is to become more like Jesus. So in becoming more like Jesus, we're going to suffer. We're going to suffer, and that pain is going to equal growth, and that pain is going to equal, it's going to make us more mature, and we're going to become as close as him as we can.
Yeah.
And in the same format, we're going to become more relatable to other people. Took me a long time to figure that out.
Yeah. Well, God allotted that extra time for you. We figured that out before.
Whoa.
But listen, that's everyone. That's
severe case.
That's me too. I mean, that is everyone. We're all severe cases. And I think that's the beauty of it, because we all relate. What you said is profound at like a whole life level. I mean, what binds us together is pain. Jesus walked through that pain, is bound to us through the pain he suffered. And if you look at your life or my life or anyone's life like a movie, it has this plot line, its ups and downs, it has its arc. But if you just went to the end of your movie, like let's say you were about to watch Brad's movie and you just were like, close your eyes, fast forward to like the last 5 minutes, and you see Brad in paradise or wherever, at the finish line, what would that mean to you? I mean, it would be cool. Maybe you could post it on like TikTok, like, look at this fake version of my life. But what would it really mean?
Like, what would my final words be?
Yeah, no, well, not even that. You would never have a context to understand what Brad at the finish line looks like without seeing Brad on the floor. You look at the Garden of Eden, and I mean, this whole thing is playing out. You have free will, right? But you also have God as the architect. God made the craziest movie, the best movie of all, through us experiencing life here. And it has the lowest lows and the highest highs. And we look at our lives and we shouldn't be surprised by either one of them, but they each find their meaning, in my opinion, in their opposite realm. So along the way, though, our character is formed and shaped. And the fact that you said pretty much the goal of life is to become more like Christ, once you lose that framework, I think everything falls apart. And that's the framework that God is keeping you on in this process. So I think you just never need to forget that. Now, shifting into the film to tie this all in a way, right? All I can tell you is what my heart says. My heart is saying that you've been through the fire, you've been through the testing, you've been through the telling God no and the telling God yes and all of this and missing all the fastballs. You've been through a lot. But now I see you floating along on like this creek or this crick. You were born in Florida, they say crick.
Maybe some
You're floating down the creek, and God's mercy is taking you where you need to go. That's what I see. I see you've been through the testing, but from your perspective, and maybe even for anyone listening that wants to know exactly where the project's at in a technical sense, like where are you guys at now overall?
Yeah, so we we had this very successful proof of concept short film that we released to the public, and we right now at this exact moment we have a incredible pilot script for the first episode of the series that is, I think, finished. You be really careful with that because it's 7 rewrites. So, but I think it's spectacular. It has blown away all of my expectations. It's very important for me to tell a story where people have the inability to be bored. People have short attention spans.
Right. And they keep
Our story does not allow you to be bored. Our pilot script. So that is the most, the thing that stands out the most is how the fast-paced nature of it, the upbeat, it stands out. It's a roller coaster ride. So we have the pilot script. It's finished. I'm going to say that over and over again because I believe it. It's over. It's done. We don't need to work on it anymore. So now we're possibly in the very near future, possibly partnering up with a crowdfunding company.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, we actually have a meeting later on this week, so people will potentially be able to crowdfund to our project. We have between 60 and 70,000 followers on social media, and so God has a plan. It's like His timing on everything, but that option is coming, I believe. It's not guaranteed, but it could be in the very near future where
very cool.
We get a crowdfunding thing to the table. So yeah. That'll be available to people very soon, hopefully.
Are you able to explain a little bit about that mechanism for what crowdfunding is, or are you not even far enough to know what they're proposing?
Yeah, not quite. But if you go to our website, thesolomonsaga.com, you can join our mailing list, and we'll keep you up to speed. You can follow us on social media at the Solomon Saga. So we're going to be communicating with our followers really soon. I'm not an expert.
Yeah, yeah.
like crowdfunding. But we're having some really positive conversations right now.
So yeah. What would you have a name for this milestone that you're currently at right now, in the sense of like, we've seen your story, right? From where it started to where it is now. Are you at critical mass? That's a guess. Is that where you're at, or are you past critical mass
I don't
from
know.
your perspective?
I don't know. Like the pressure's off finally. I don't know what happened to me 6 months ago, but it was definitely a low point. It was a breaking point.
Huh.
Um, yeah, when you're talking about your own like health problems, and something's wrong with you. Something's wrong with me. But now I feel at peace with the whole thing. I'm just kind of taking it one day at a time. But you know, the fact that the script is really the most important part of any project. Our script is phenomenal. I believe that wholeheartedly. I mean, I think that this thing is going to blow people away. We have an outline for 2 to 3 seasons telling Solomon's story. So, you know, there's some other things happening behind the scenes personally with some of our team members that are making us take a bit of a pause. And I don't want to get into other people's business, but there's some things happening that are completely out of our hands that we just have to just wait and just, you know, be more patient. So, but yeah, we're making progress. We're getting closer. I can say this probably. Somebody has our script right now
Okay, cool.
that could potentially play Solomon. Yeah.
That's really
Yeah,
exciting
somebody's
news. That's a big one.
Somebody has it, and you would know who I'm talking about.
So that's something definitely to keep in mind
Yeah,
as
somebody
we
has
follow
it,
you.
and somebody's been chosen to play him by our team, and we're gonna see how that shakes out.
That's a huge step right there.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna reiterate, and I'm gonna take home my point and see if you accept it. The phase that you're at right now is the creek.
Yeah.
God's mercy. Let it just pull you down. That's where you're at. I'm gonna say that in the most positive way, and I love seeing Brad at peace because I feel it, man. I really do, honestly.
Yeah.
Because there's a time for that, like when you're in the fire, to be all bent out of shape. But you know, maybe some of our heads are thicker than others, and God has to hit us a couple more times.
Yeah.
But the goal is to be at the place where you say, "I'm at peace.
Yeah.
I'm at peace," like a river, and now you're flowing down that river.
Yeah.
So I love to see that, man.
So I feel.
I love it.
I'm telling you the truth.
No, and I wholeheartedly believe you.
I wouldn't lie to you. I wouldn't lie to you.
I know.
It took a long time to get here, but I'm here. Yeah.
And you're going to stay there. You're going to stay in God's peace every single second of every single day.
I'm parked.
Yeah, we try.
Yeah.
We try. Well, on that note,
Yeah.
you mentioned that we could follow you on social media, your website as well. What else can we do? What else can anyone watching this do to support you, to pray for you, to find you, to be there for you? What could we do?
Yeah, I think that the other plot line to all of this is, my goal has to be has to be God's goal, is to bring people closer to the Bible. Let people read the Bible, see how that. The biggest takeaway for me when I read the Bible cover to cover was it taught me more about myself than anything. So I would like people to have these stories sort of live inside their heart like it did mine. They can teach them about themselves. And, I felt like I was sort of bombed with the truth, the truth that kind of came with that. So that would be a takeaway for me, that, the truth shall set you free. I wrote a book, Through His Word, I Can Finally See is the title. Through His Word, I Can Finally See. So yeah, there's multiple things happening here at once. It's not just about the Solomon Saga. It's about, the general well-being of anybody that hears this podcast and hears my story. So, but yeah, the crowdfunding is a big way to contribute. Follow us on social media. Our even in this moment, we've gained, just in the last 2.5 weeks, we've gained thousands of followers. We don't even know why.
Yeah.
So even in these quiet moments, where our script, by the way, just got completed. It went through its 7th rewrite about 10 days ago. It finished, finalized. But in that moment, where things get a little quiet and we're waiting to hear back from the crowdfunding who is reading our script, we gained like thousands of followers on social media, and we can't really pinpoint what happened or why it happened.
That's the waiting phase right there.
Yeah.
We don't understand it. It's torture for us.
Yeah.
But God's moving all the pieces and he's orchestrating a beautiful symphony. And we just kind of sit there like, okay, we're ready. We're ready to hear it. God's like, hold on. I'm not quite ready yet. But that's a wonderful testimony right in itself.
Yeah.
So follow on social media, website. We'll get our updates, crowdfunding, other announcements. Incredible. And then I think to tie it all together, what I love that you said was that you want their lives to be impacted by the Bible, by the story of Solomon. You want them to seek God. You want to see that. You want the fangs in them in the best possible way. I love it.
That's it.
I love it.
You said it. You said it better than me.
Oh, I'm glad. It's an honor to come from you. Brad, you say things very well. Anything else that you want to share?
Man, I think I'm talked out. I haven't talked this much for a while. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
My wife would definitely not say the same about me.
I think you extracted all of it, or at least a lot of it.
It was a real pleasure to sit and talk with you.
I had fun, man.
I mean
it was
that.
a good time.
Well, thank you for watching the Echo Podcast. Stay tuned for more updates.